Welcome back, everyone, to BigApple Banter. Um, on a side note, before we get back into sports, a year ago yesterday was the 1 year anniversary since Kobe Bryant, amongst his daughter and a bunch of other people that died in a
Yeah,
helicopter crash.
so
Um,
tragic. Can't believe it's
I
been
can't
a
believe,
year already.
yeah, I can't believe it's been a year. I remember I literally just got out of the hospital, me personally, after I ruptured my spleen, and I was sitting down at Applebee's, and we were watching the news the whole time
It was a
because,
Sunday, right?
yeah, they were
Yeah, I
just
was
talking
off of
about that on
work.
every news.
I was home, and when that news broke, I was just like, no freaking way! Like everybody's, this has to be some fake news. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah,
Just,
I mean, obviously we know him on the court. He was a great player, probably a top 10 player of all time.
yeah,
He has the hardware to go with it.
his talents alone, his mindset has set so many players, to follow in his footsteps. Even kids in these days, people across the world have admired Kobe Bryant. So sad that he got taken so young, and he was only excelling at his next, in his next life, as a father, being a girl dad, and
And a
even
filmmaker.
yeah, he even had an Academy Award for that. So he was just beginning in that, and only it just sucks his life got cut too short.
And that's just the reality, harsh reality of human life. It's so fragile, and yeah, it could
Yeah,
change at any
it
second.
really is. It puts a lot of things in perspective for a lot of people. And, it's crazy to think how that tragic event kind of set the tone for what a awful year 2020 came to be.
Yeah, no kidding.
But, yeah, I mean, rest in peace, Kobe, Gianna, and everybody else on that plane. But getting into some other goats, the big three in Brooklyn, they're they're starting to get some things together. Starting to formalize some kind of chemistry. But they are some having a tough time defending the ball. That's going to be they're probably Achilles heel when it comes down to it in the playoffs because they can score. There's no doubt about it. They're all pretty much averaging like 25 points a game, all of them since they've been together as a big three. But it's going to be a matter of are they going to be able to defend? They might be able to score all they can, but are they going to be able to make key stops when they need to be? Yeah, that's going to be the big question mark.
Yeah, and that's just going to be the trial run down the stretch. I mean, it's early in the season, and from a small sample size, yeah, they could put up points at will, but will it matter at the final box score? Probably not. I mean, they play no defense, and you know what? The NBA has become less and less about defense, especially with these star players. They're all about the offense. So it's definitely a concern for the Nets going down the stretch.
Yeah, it's crazy. And since our last show, they've only played in 3 games. They lost that game to the Cavs when we were on our last show. That was their debut, actually, I think a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or just around or a couple games before our show last week. And they lost to the Cavs. Then they won their next game, I believe. And then they're now tonight. I don't know. I missed the results of the game tonight, but oh, they won. They
Oh,
won in overtime.
wow.
The Nets beat the Atlanta Hawks in overtime, 132 to 128. So again, it's just they have great prolific scorers, but it's just the defense. The defense is definitely going to hurt them. They don't have the depth at center. They're lacking size and maybe even some strength and you know some big men around the presence around the rim.
Yeah, so that's the reality of the situation. When you've got your team by pulling a trade for a superstar, you're going to be left with some pieces to pick up.
Yeah,
So
don't get me wrong. What they do in the regular season, they're going to figure it out during the regular season. They're going to work on their chemistry, work on all the little things that are going to get them be to propel them to get them to the championship. But when it comes down to it, obviously the seating is probably not going to matter because they're playing in empty seats. So I guess seating doesn't really matter either right now until fans get back into the stands. But if they go through Philly, they might have a tough time against Embiid because who's gonna guard that guy? And then if they get to the finals, who's gonna guard AD and LeBron? He's
LeBron.
just as brawl. He's gonna bully KD. KD's a freaking twig.
You're no kidding, right? You see his legs? His legs look so freaking skinny. He's so freakishly tall and thin.
Same thing with Milwaukee. I don't think Milwaukee has any other talent, to really beat Brooklyn. But again, Giannis can't all do it by himself. And even when they played Milwaukee that game, Giannis wasn't even defending anybody. He was on some joke of a player on Brooklyn. He wasn't even on KD or Kyrie or even Harden, I think, when they were playing. So that's a little odd, especially that he just got signed to his super max. So it's just, I don't know. The Nets, obviously, they're going to score, but are they going to be able to figure it out when it comes to the playoffs against Philly, or when they make it to the finals against, how are they going to deal with LeBron and AD? I know they're finesse. I know they can finesse. I know they can ball handle. But
I have a feeling unless they go
to size.
I have a feeling when it comes to postseason, I know we're a long stretch away from there, but unless they go hyperbolic with their scoring, I feel like they're probably going to fall off short because of their defense. That'll be their
or they're going to get criticized like hell when they come up short, and if they don't make it to the finals, even more so. It's when you have
that would be shocking.
The guys, when you have those three guys on a team, you have to make it to the finals. And
it's a no-brainer. I mean, the Knicks wish they just had one of those players, one of those star players cross town. But yeah, the Knicks have been struggling lately, huh?
Yeah, I mean. That's them. That's their identity. They're not the Brooklyn Nets. They're not flashy. They're not sexy. They're a little young and exciting. You could give them that, but they're not gonna go out there and win 40, 50 games. They're not. That's just not them. They won 3, they lost 3, then they win a couple. Then they lost 5 in a row. Then they're going on a little win streak. They just had a West Coast trip. They were 1-4 in that West Coast trip. They're 8-11 on the season. They won the first one against Golden State, an impressive win. Then they went out and played on a back-to-back night. They played Sacramento. That was a tough game going back and forth. I'm pretty sure they lost the lead in that game. And supposedly, Tyrese Halliburton for Sacramento is looking really good. Point guard, and some Knicks fans have been saying that we might be regretting the Obi Toppin pick, and we could have had this guy running our point. I mean, don't get me wrong, Emmanuel Quickly, he's been great, and he's probably a steal for the 25th pick, but he's still showing some inconsistencies, and even when he's been successful, it's also been against the second units against most of the teams, so it's not even like it's against the first units where he's playing against the top-notch players. So.
And that's so Knicks, because I remember right after they drafted Obi Toppin, Stephen A. was killing the pick because there's no reason to draft a power forward. I mean, they had Julius Randle already.
Yeah, exactly. They had Randle, and he's having a career year right now, and
Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, Mitchell Robinson. I mean, don't get me. He can defend. He does that, but he's not a sexy player. He's a nice presence, but he's not. He's no Joel Embiid. He's not a DeAndre Ayton. He's not a Bam Adebayo. He's not even like on the second tier guys like a Sabonis. He's not even like, I don't even consider him like on that level, honestly.
Yeah, look, you know what? The Knicks fan is just clamoring for some glimmer of hope here. That's all they're looking for.
Tom Thibodeau's giving them that. They're showing some life, they're showing some promise, and they're showing competitiveness, which is great. That's exactly what they need to attract star free agents or disgruntled players, and just to rebuild the brand that the franchise used to be. And I think Tom Thibodeau they picked the right guy to do that. We've seen it. This is not the Knicks teams from past. When they've been out of games, they've come back. And a lot of their wins have been against quality teams. They just lost to the Jazz last night. but they had a lead in that game and they lost it. So
Well,
it's just an experience and inconsistent shooting. But that's what happens when you have a young roster like this. It's going to be growing pains. But again, it's just a lot of excitement. And if the young guys can figure it out and develop a lot of confidence, because they don't really have like that ball handler, that guy that could just take over the game and you could trust with the ball in his hands. I mean, Randall kind of has been that guy, but he's not that perennial all-star that most teams have.
now I don't know if you saw this earlier, but I also saw the Knicks are interested in potentially signing Derrick Rose
Yeah,
to
yeah, I did
to
see
the
that.
Knicks.
And he was on the team a couple years ago, but again, that was a crappy system under irrelevant head coaches.
And now
So,
he's 32 years old too, and like you said, this is a young, growing team, and he's
yeah.
an older vet. Adding into the mix might
And
be
that's what they kind of wanted to do
an
with bringing
issue.
in Chris Paul. So, he could kind of teach the young guards on the team. But if you bring a guy in like D Rose who kind of has that veteran leadership and kind of tenacity, kind of like Russ, like he plays really hard like that. So you kind of get a mix of CP and D Rose and Russ a little bit in D Rose. So if they pull a move off like that, it could be good to propel them into the playoffs and make them a little bit more competitive than what they are now.
Yeah, so maybe we'll that'll happen in the next coming days, and we'll have Derrick Rose added to the mix, and maybe that'll be the jolt they need right now to get them out of this funk they've been in.
Yeah, and maybe a guy like that, he'll be able to run the floor a lot more because they have Alfred Payton right now who he's a guy that should be coming off the bench and he's starting for them. So, they should just start Emmanuel Quickie right now so he could get acclimated to the first units of other teams, get used to those kind of minutes and playing against those players. And then, yeah, if they make a move for D Rose, then he can only learn from him, and I think that'll be great. You just got right now. You can't be disappointed as a Knicks fan. You got to be happy with what's going on right now.
I totally agree. So let's take a break and towel off, and we'll be back.
Yeah, and then we'll dive into some Yankees and Mets baseball.
And big trades.
Yeah, lots to talk about. We'll be right back.